All right, we're going to take a look at writing the argumentative essay. Now, we go through the writing process. You want to make sure you do the writing process every time, which is pre-writing, rough draft, revise and edit, and then your final draft comes out of that. So pre-writing, you should have already done. That's like brainstorming, coming up with ideas. Two main things in pre-writing is coming up with ideas and making a plan. Now, your outline should have everything you need for beginning this rough draft. So, your outline is the making a plan. All the research that you were doing is the gathering ideas on what you're going to write about. So, your rough draft is what we're going to be focused on today, and it comes out of that outline. So, if you're using your outline, you really are like right on. That's what you want to be doing. So, we're going to take a look at the rough draft. Now, grading for a rough draft is kind of easy because all you have to do is write the thing. And if it's off, you're going to get things marked up so that you can revise, which is the next draft. So, some of the things that you need to pay attention to when you're writing a rough draft. First off, don't change the font size or the type. I think it starts at like size 11 Arial or something like that, or size 12 Times New Roman, whatever it is. Just don't touch it. And you get credit for that. A lot of you like to mess with it. If it's too small, then enlarge the screen, not the type. All right? That way you could see it. And if you're not sure, just ask a question and I'll show you how to do it. It's pretty easy. The other thing is on a rough draft, there's only a couple things to grade on a rough draft. One, is it readable? Because if it's not readable, it's useless. And since we're typing everything, that helps with a whole lot of like penmanship and that kind of thing, and trying to work through that. The other one is, does it fulfill the assignment that you're looking for? Now, if you've done the outline, it will have fulfilled what you've done will have fulfilled the requirements of the assignment, so you don't have to worry about that. All right. And so you want to make sure it's double spaced. You want to indent your paragraphs, no extra space between your paragraphs. Now, when you do that, I can just look at your paper. For the rough draft points, I can just look at your paper without even reading it and let you know if you get the points or not. So if you're not sure before you turn it in, be sure to check with me and I'll like ask you the question so that you get it fixed. Now, after you turn it in and I give you points for the rough draft, then we start looking at revising. And something to help you out with, when you're writing your paper, don't use the words you, I think, I believe, things like that. Don't use that. When you use the name Troy Davis, first time you use it, whenever you use a name in your paper, you use the full name to start with, and then you only use the last name. And that's how you do it for every paper that you write. So like if you said Troy Davis was accused of killing the police officer, then every time after that, for the rest of the paper, you just use Davis. Okay? So that's what you get graded on with a rough draft, is making sure that you follow that format. And I can just look at it to grade it. Now, here's the thing though, in order for it to match what the requirements are for the paper, now you look at your outline and you've got all this in there, but in the introduction, all the stuff that was in that paragraph 1 needs to be in your introduction. So you need a hook, you need context for what's going on in the story, and you need your thesis statement that has a couple of reasons attached to it. Whatever position that you took, because, and then you had a couple of reasons for it. All right, that's in the introduction paragraph, the first paragraph. The second paragraph, the body paragraph, is that you give the first reason that you put in the thesis. It says introduction, but that should have been on the last slide. It says the claim. The first reason you put in the thesis. So when you said whatever your position was, because the first reason should be body paragraph 1. Okay. And then you provide evidence. Now you need to say where you get your evidence from. You don't use the website. You use you don't use a web address. You use what's the name of the people putting it on. So if you use like amnestyinternational.com, it'd be Amnesty International would be where you get your information from. And then the reasoning is like you explain, you made your claim, you gave your evidence, and now you've got to explain it all out as to why that evidence shows what you wanted to show. All of this should be elaborated on. You go to your outline and you elaborate. You didn't have to put a whole lot in there. for your outline, but then now's your time to start elaborating on it to make your paragraphs. All right. Body paragraph 2. Now, this is the one that people get a lot of trick on, is the counter argument with rebuttal. What that means is that you state the other side of the position. Like, you have your position and you're giving the other side of it, the other point of view. Now, this is a counter argument. So what you wanted, this is stating the other side. You give their evidence for why they think that. But then you give why they think that. You explain it. But then comes a rebuttal where you can even state more information that tells why that information isn't good, what you had before. You've got to explain, after you give their reasoning, you're saying, well, this is false because, and you give your evidence and more explanation, or you say that information is good, but it's not strong enough to counter these other ideas, and you've got to rebut it. So you're stating the other side, but the paragraph has to support your thesis, even though you're stating the other side. And this is what makes it an argumentative essay, is this paragraph where you're stating the other side. And then your third body paragraph goes back. It's like your first body paragraph. You had a couple of reasons to explain your thesis. This is where you put the second reason. So if your claim was Troy Davis was innocent because the witness testimony was bad and there was no physical evidence, the witness testimony being bad would be paragraph 1. Paragraph 2 is the opposite viewpoint about whatever point you want to make up. Body paragraph 3 would be the no physical evidence. So you're getting both of them in there. And then your last paragraph is the conclusion, where you restate your thesis statement, you go over the main points, and then now that I've read your essay, this is the call to action. What do I do now that I've read your essay? How am I supposed to think? Am I supposed to do something now that I've read your essay? Now, that's the format for it. The rough draft is pretty easy grade. You're going to turn that in, and then I'm going to mark it up and get it back to you so you can do your revising and get a final draft out of it. But for your rough draft, remember, double space. Don't change the font size or type, because then you'll lose points because you're changing it. And don't put extra space between paragraphs, and make sure you indent. And if you have any questions, just make sure you email. All right. And there you go.